Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. How close is this fight really going to be? What's up, everybody, and welcome to One on One with me, Laura Sanko, and him, the amazing Dean Thomas. I'm cupping your head on my screen, but it's not really working out the way I thought it would in real life. We're going to talk about UFC 322's main event, the welterweight title on the line. Welterweight king Della Maddalena defending against the greatest lightweight of all time. Do you have toilet paper on your face?
No, I know you was gonna say something. No, it's like a Band-Aid.
Oh,
But I'm not very. But when you put it on top of like hair, and I'm greasy anyway.
yeah.
Like I sweat bacon grease.
I've got a cold. That sounded gross. You sweat. Wow. You eat that much pork? Or
Yeah, I
you
eat.
just
I eat a lot of things I shouldn't be eating. Put it that way.
oily individual? Did you get a little frisky with the razor?
Yeah. Well, I was using my clippers, right, and it just
Oh,
and it wasn't
mm,
it wasn't playing
that
nice
hurts
today.
so bad. I don't know how it feels on my face, but I know how it feels other places. It is not pleasant. It's awful.
You
It's
know how it is.
awful.
Like you think you're doing the right thing, but now I got this little stupid Band-Aid on my face that
Uh, do they should make band-aids for people of your shade.
of color.
Yeah. That's
Go
kind
ahead
of
and
like,
say it because in fact like this is supposed to be like their concealer, the nude. I'm like, who I look like Drake?
wait, those are band-aids for people with melanin? It
No,
doesn't look
it's just
like it.
it's the standard
Oh,
Band-Aid of
standard
concealer.
white people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not standard for me.
No, I petitioned that they should have more band-aids in various shades for occasions like this because it looked like you had toilet paper, but now we know. And now we can
Yeah.
proceed with the intro that I was wrapping up.
Well, the people
The
gotta know, or else they're gonna think that I'm a basehead. You know what I'm saying? So they gotta know.
the greatest lightweight of all time, Islam Makhachev, is looking to become a double champion to further cement his already cemented lightweight legacy, looking to broader pastures up in the welterweight division. Dean, as always, before we get into the nitty gritty of the fight itself, overarching broad picture thoughts on this fight, its implications, its meaning, wherever you want to take it.
See, this is one of them unique fights that has a lot of different storylines to it. So it's not necessarily one overarching storyline that really dominates. Because when you think about this fight itself, there's so many different unknowns. Like Jack Della Maddalena is relatively a new champion.
Mm-hmm.
So he got the belt from beating Belal. A lot of people didn't think he deserved that title shot. So because he's a relatively new champion, he's not like in this territory where we're thinking, okay, he's the greatest welterweight of all time or anything like that. We're still trying to see if he's a proven guy. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one storyline, and not even the major one. The major one, if there is a major one, it is really how good is Islam to be moving up to welterweight to win a title there. And then if he beats a guy like Jack, does that really say how good he is? Because again, like I said before, is Jack the guy, the measurement as to where we should be measuring
Yeah.
welterweight, even though he is the champ, but like he, again, like a lot of people didn't even think he deserved the title when he got it.
Well, and that's not Islam's fault, right? Like I sent out a text to the weigh-in show group saying like, hey, we should do some sort of ranking of double champ attempts because they're definitely not all created equal. And I'm not even talking about double champ reigns. That's a whole other different discussion. Like who had a truly double champ reign? There's really not many of those. But even if you're just kind of measuring who had the toughest fight or the most impactful, important fight to become a double champ, the list is kind of short, honestly. Like DC beating Stipe is up there for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think. I have a list. I'm just going to pull up the list. GSP beating Bisping to become middleweight champ, maybe less so, right? Because Bisping had
Right.
not been a
Yeah.
champion for super long. Amanda Nunes beating Chris Cyborg, even though Chris Cyborg was brand new to the organization. If you know anything about women's MMA, that was as big as it could get. Even though she didn't have a long history. I mean, Cyborg had been in the UFC, but like had been beating scrubs. John Jones beating Cyril Gahn, not as much, right? Like, so they're not all created equal. And obviously, on this same night, the co-main event, we have another double champ attempt. That one is one of the biggest fights in women's MMA history. Again, not taking away from how big of a deal this would be if Islam is able to achieve it. It's not his fault that Jack Della has not been a champion for, 5 defenses. It's still going to be an incredible thing. But it is interesting to look at it in the context of like, not all of these double champs are really the same thing.
And we tend to lump them all together. But that's because we're lazy. We're lazy and we tend to lump, oh, he's a double champ. So automatically he's the greatest. But like you said, they're not all created equal and they're not all the same. Now, if Islam can beat Jack, that does say, that does say a lot about, it's actually not, it's still really good.
Yes. Yes. And listen, if he were to, which I think he would, stay and defend, that erases any asterisk, that could be kept in terms of just like Jack not having a long reign before he took it away from him. It's just the nature of the sport. And again, it's nothing to say that Islam, it doesn't take away from Islam's greatness. It's just we like to have these check, marks on paper, and it wouldn't necessarily be there. Let me run through the some of the stats before we start talking strategy in the fight. Jack Della Maddalena, 29 years old, is 8-0 in the UFC. Islam Makhachev, 34 years old, and is 15-1 in the UFC. JDM, obviously we're going to talk a lot about size, so this is important. JDM's 5'11", Islam's 5'10". Really not that big of a difference. JDM has a reach of 73 inches, Islam 70. That's bordering on, like, that is a significant, a noticeable reach. JDM likes to switch stances, obviously Islam southpaw. Strikes landed per minute. JDM lands 6.84 strikes per minute. That is insanely high for that weight class. Islam is down at 2.63. Striking accuracy, 52% for JDM, 58% for Islam. It's honestly crazy that JDM is as high as he is at that high of a clip. Usually people who throw that much, their accuracy goes down a little bit. Not so with him. His is pretty good. Strikes absorbed per minute, 4.53 for JDM. That's pretty high. 1.55 for Islam. The guy does not get touched very much. 64% defense for JDM, 61 for Islam. And then in terms of grappling, takedown averages per 15 minutes, 0.16 for JDM, 3.2 for Islam, no surprise there. Takedown accuracy for JDM, 11%. He's not really trying, and if he is, he's just chaining. 53% for Islam, very high. Takedown defense for JDM, obviously pretty important in this one, 69%, pretty good. 90% for Islam, and submission average per 15 minutes, 0.2 for JDM and 1.1 for Islam. So, all of that to say, I guess where's a good place to start? What did you make? What was your biggest takeaway in terms of JDM from the Belal fight? And to what degree do you think we can actually apply this to Islam? Because it's like, yeah, they're similar, but like, are they?
Well, there's a lot from that Belal fight that you can take away from this, and that's one, he's willing to go through the mud, and he's not going to be discouraged if he's getting taken down or if he's getting shot on, and that's going to be important because he's going, in my opinion, there's no way he doesn't stop he can stop all the takedowns. He won't stop all the takedowns. It's going to be interesting and telling to see how he reacts to getting taken down by Islam. Now, here's the significant difference between Islam and Belal. I think Islam has better control on the ground. I think he's a better pure grappler. I'm not saying he gets in on shots as fast or anything like that, but once he gets his hands around you, I think he does a better job of really sticking to you and controlling you and making
And being a
grappling
submission threat.
situations count
Yeah.
and work for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being a submission threat for sure. So I think that's going to be an important thing for Jack to be aware of. Now, I've been saying this for months. The Craig Jones element is the key in this fight here, and Craig has been very vocal about that. Not tooting his own horn, but just vocal about the idea of how these guys are winning fights in terms of using their wrestling and how
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a factor and how he's going to stop it. And I think that is amazing. And he's got a guy, a 29-year-old guy like Jack, who's a stud, who can implement it.
Yeah, I'm a on record as a major Craig Jones stan at this point. I love that guy. And when you're talking about him, like talking about the fight, if you guys don't follow Craig Jones, please just go do yourself a favor and follow him on Instagram because the man is so funny. He says the quiet thing out loud all the time. I'll just put it that way. I went kind of down a rabbit hole trying to figure out like if he ever really fully articulates why he is the solution to Dagestani. Like I really wanted him to get nuts and bolts about it in terms of like breaking down. Maybe that would be too much of a peek behind the curtain. I couldn't find anything where he really went into it. Usually he just kind of makes a joke out of it. But he did at one point talk about the systems. He said, I look at the systems that we have in jiu-jitsu and particularly the way that he approaches jiu-jitsu. And there's like decision trees and there's systemization of everything. And he's like, and I look at their system and it's just like, it's very simple. It's just boop, 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 and boop. Like, I don't think he said it quite like that. That'd be pretty lame. But
Hey, that's what he said. Boop, 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 boop.
no, he didn't say boop. That was me. But point being, like, he didn't find it overly nuanced or sophisticated or complicated. He's seen things I don't see. I find Dagestani wrestling to be pretty intimidating. I've never had to go against someone with that style, but I feel like they do a really good job of attacking multiple points of the body, more so maybe than American folk style wrestlers do. I don't know. But I'm still on the train of like he has it figured out. I just want to hear him say it. I'm gonna pull him aside in New York and just be like, Craig, just like between us girls, like give me the sauce here. Like what are you
So
really picking?
I too have studied that system and the jiu-jitsu system the current system for jiu-jitsu now doesn't work well against Dagestani wrestling because it's so antiquated. Also, what doesn't work great against Dagestani wrestling is American wrestling. It's just not complete enough. Like you said, Dagestani wrestling is covering multiple points at once. They extend their sequences a little bit longer. Wrestlers have a hard time dealing with it, and they think the answer is just give up the back, cut the hands, and that's not to me the answer. I think what Craig Jones is going to come up with, I think he's going to come up with different ways of playing guard, different ways of creating frames, different ways of attacking. I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys attacking leg locks, something that we're
Yeah.
not used to seeing Dagestani guys deal with. And it's just being different and having different ways. But the idea that these guys, I remember talking to one coach, he was like, I know we got to train for 2 months straight to deal with Dagestani wrestlers. I was like, that is the exact opposite of what I was thinking.
Yeah, a lot of times I feel like people's answers like we just got to do more. We got to do it harder. Like that's really not always the case, which is why initially if we were talking about something else, and you've probably heard me say before, you can't learn to wrestle in a year or 2 years. And that would be easy and kind of lazy to apply that line to this situation with Jack. But I would argue that you can learn what you just described. You can learn very specific approaches to patterns with an already good wrestling base that obviously Jack Della has had for many, many, many years. He's not learning to wrestle. When I grappled with Craig in Canada, and it's obviously like I've said this before. Like it was It was hilariously embarrassing on my part. I was very out of shape. But just the little bit that I got to feel like the way that he moves and approaches things, it is so different than most guys I've ever grappled with. And I've mostly ever grappled with guys. And it's definitely different than guys his size that I've grappled with before. He does some funky shit. And like the octopus guard and inverting, and then, but he's not inverting to really do anything. He's just inverting to get his feet down. And he's just going to stand right up. Like, to your point, old style jujitsu, not going to work. Folk style wrestling, not necessarily going to work. But he's bringing this new flavor that might be the sauce.
I've always said this as well, is that when there was that transition from, when, the game goes in circles, and when that initial transition from when jiu-jitsu stopped working in MMA, it was partially because when it stopped working, like wrestlers were holding the hips, and then MMA guys said, oh, well, we just got to work on our wrestling and our striking. And all the really good, brilliant jiu-jitsu minds, they stuck with jiu-jitsu. They said, you know what, MMA is not for me anyway. Let's just develop a more sophisticated way of doing jiu-jitsu and win some tournaments. And they all did that, like the Craig Joneses and the Donahers, and like all these guys stuck with jiu-jitsu. But now, with Craig coming in, we're starting to see what the intelligence of jiu-jitsu, just the intelligence, can do for a jiu-jitsu player in MMA, as opposed to just saying, I mean, you hear it all the time. You hear us. Just put your feet on the hips and stand up. I mean, what kind of strategy is that? So it's a lot more sophisticated, and it's a lot more detailed than just doing those things. And now with Craig here, I think that we're going to start seeing it more. And he's just a small sample size. I think that with UFC BJJ out, and you see like I did some work with Cody Steele, and he's working with the Tackett brothers and Musamichi, and like there's going to be this blend.
He's working
and
with you, is who he's working with.
Yeah, right. So, and yeah, I will say that he was like, oh,
I'm just saying, I put you in that same group. Like you're,
yeah,
you don't often get credit for how much of a thought leader you are in this area because you don't compete anymore. But I know it, and I'll say it.
yeah. So I do think that we're going to start to see a major shift because of that.
Yeah. Shifting toward Islam a bit for a moment, because we have to give our Dagestani fighters some flowers on this channel, as always. He is the best lightweight of all time. What he has done is nothing short of unbelievable, with a skill set that is incredibly difficult to pick apart and create game plans for. What, in your mind, what makes him so elite? And maybe specifically in this matchup, what's the most dangerous part of his game in this matchup that, because I know you'll give me a more specific answer than like wrestling.
No, I think what makes him really elite and really difficult to deal with is his ability to not make mistakes while maintaining a high level, or at least a relatively high level of output. Now, it's easy to not make mistakes when you're absolutely doing nothing and just being on defense. But he may have moments of where he's doing that because that's part of the game. But for a guy who is always in control and is always moving forward towards his next goal, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes in the process. He doesn't leave a lot of openings and holes for people to take advantage of. And that has just won him multiple fights, just being able to stay in position, get back in position, not overextend himself for any reason, but and also stay on track. Like even when in moments when we thought Dustin Poirier was having a comeback, like the whole crowd was like, Dustin. Makhachev was like, come on, y'all. Watch this. Whoop.
Yeah, he never fights outside of himself, and he never fights out of what would seem to be the game plan for any given fight. It's a very Russian approach, right? Like they have very contained personalities, and it's like disciplined. There's almost a discipline in their entire way of operating in the world. I'm sure that obviously they cut loose behind closed doors, but for the most part, they're very aware and disciplined in everything that they say and they do, and it shows in the fight as well.
Well, it's a level of maybe stoicism where they're just very focused, very determined, And they fight like that. They live like that. They train like that. And it's on fight night. It's so reliable for them on fight night because that's, and I preach this to my guys all the time. I go, do you think that you're going to mess around all camp, have fun, y'all dancing, and then you think on fight night is going to turn on? It don't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And you can see the way the Dagestani wrestlers, they approach fights. You can tell that they're serious all the time about their craft. So when they show up
Yeah.
to fight, it's just another day in the office for them.
What win of his impressed you the most? I'm thinking back. Obviously, he beat Volk twice. The knockout was incredible. His win over Charles Oliveira was probably the one that I find most impressive. But the fight with Poirier. What win really sticks out to you in terms of like, man, this guy is freaking incredible?
Well, I think so. When you look at the Volk win, the first one was actually more impressive than the second because like he had to dig deep. So the second one he just kicked him in the head, and you can do that. Like you can just kick a guy in the head. That's a part of the game, and if it happens, it happens. It doesn't mean you're that much better than the guy. It just means you happen to catch him. But the fact that he is able to over.
Buffer once told me that he could kick me in the head. Right.
Who said that? Buffer said that to you?
I was talking to him the first time I ever talked to him in an airport, and he goes, I could kick you in the head right now. It was part of a broader context, but I just thought it was a fun thing to say to your female coworker.
That is the most Buffer thing ever.
I think he was talking about his martial arts background, and anyway, sorry, I digress. But it made me think you could just kick someone in the head. Just you
can you could just catch a person sometimes, but to outduel them is actually more impressive. To be in the mud with somebody and fighting for the same bottle of water in the mud, and then to come out on top is really pretty impressive. So with that one, but I also think that the Charles Oliveira one was just as impressive. As you said, I think that the fact that he dropped him, and Charles is known for being like, okay, you dropped me, let me go down to my safety blanket. And he said, oh, that's your safety blanket? No, it's not. And he went down there and then choked him out. So I think that was probably his most impressive win.
Yeah. Talk to me about the things in this fight that you feel like are important for Jack to do to turn the momentum in his favor. Like if you're creating a game plan for Jack, what are some of the things that are going to be important for him?
And this is the problem with the way people train for that wrestling of the Dagestanis or even sometimes American wrestlers is that they, remember we used to think about boxers back in the day when they go, oh man, I would just stick my forearm, I would just stick my hand out and punch him. I would just use my footwork and stay away from him. That doesn't work. It worked, it worked for Thiago Alves against Matt Hughes, right? It worked back then. It doesn't work now. You have to be willing to get taken down and be okay. I believe that if we're Jack, you have to be willing to say, and not to say that like that's where you want the fight to be, but you have to be willing to say, you have to be willing to say, hey, I might get taken down in the first 15 seconds, and I have to be okay with that, and I have to be able to fight out of that, and it might happen again and again, but I have to be willing to fight out of it, and then discourage Islam from shooting. That's going to be the key. Is that when he gets taken down, it's not a big deal. And then he can hurt him enough in the process of either getting taken down or getting back to his feet to where Islam is now discouraged from shooting.
Yeah. One of the things that Jack did so well against Belal had to do with his stance and his positioning, right? Like he was really sort of over his lead leg and like he would throw a jab and then he'd immediately not really level change to show a takedown, just that was like his reset. What he was always like lower his stance so that as Belal would try to shoot following the jab in, he would already have underhooks and they basically would just collide and Jack would just sort of push him back and there would be no ability for Belal to get past his frames or his underhooks. Do you think that, obviously that's important. Islam wrestles that way, but he also wrestles in a completely upper body I'm just going to be here and I'm going to trip your little foot out and you're not even going to notice it sort of way. That's actually the part of his wrestling that to me is the most impressive, is the stuff that he makes look so effortless. The little trips, the little follow-ons, like the way that he chains things together. It's not like he's chaining a single into a double, and he does that as well. It's the little tiny nuancy things that aren't big, huge movements that I think are probably the most difficult to prepare for. It's the
Well,
somber
and that's
stuff.
going to be, yeah, no, but you're right. But that's the issue with Bilal coming, or not Bilal, but Jack, when he was coming up with underhooks on Bilal, is that it still allows for that second effort from Islam. So
Hmm.
he's going to, but what he also did against Bilal is he uses frames well. And he's going to
Hmm.
need to use his frames against Islam because that will at least eliminate some of that second effort from Islam. When you have frames and not allow him to fully lock his hands behind you or to just chain together two or three different submissions. So I think that and Jack does that really well. Like he keeps his hands up, he puts his frame out right
Hmm.
here, and like you can't get past that. He's going to need that more so than this underhook over 50-50 battle because if he starts to play that battle, he's playing right into the game of Islam because Islam is so good with off balancing you and using his overhook. Even if you have an underhook on him, he's going to use that overhook as a handle. You won't get away
Yep.
from it. So yeah, Jack's gonna have to use a lot of frames.
In terms of like the overarching strategy, what do you feel like Jack needs to do besides the obvious defend, takedowns? Is this a fight he needs to stay on the outside? Is this a fight where he needs to squeeze past Islam's kicking range and put this in boxing range and keep the pressure on, but not too much pressure because then you're presenting the takedown? Like, what are your thoughts in terms of range strategy?
Yeah, and that's tricky too because this is if there's an overall strategy, the overall strategy is you got to start hitting this man, and that sounds so obvious, right? It really does. But that's where the sub strategies come into play in the different timing where we are in the fight. Because at some points in the fight, he's going to want to be on the outside and maybe pot shot a little bit and get Islam to reach so he can catch him coming in. And then at other points of the fight, I think he needs to get inside. I think because and that's the hard part. That's the risk. But that's where the greatest reward is. Like we're so afraid, fighters are so afraid of getting inside. You have to get inside because that's where you do all the damage. The damage on the outside is like you got to kind of get lucky and hope they lunge and they might not. And Islam won't. Islam's not going to really start reaching. So in order for Jack to really do a lot of like damaging work, he's got to take that risk and go, we got to be inside so I can put some together two, three
Mhm.
punches on you and then some elbows on the inside so that you're busted up. Like you have to be busted up. Like I can't allow you to wrestle me like Tuesday night practice.
Yeah. And for Islam, what do you feel like he's got to do to to get inside on Jack and get this fight where he wants it? I mean, just is it just about pressure and getting past those warning shots that Jack will no doubt be firing off?
Well, I think that Islam's best chances are going to be really, really early. And I
Hmm.
said it. If he can get him down early. Now, the Craig Jones element is a hack. It is a cheat code. Now, if you can get a man down early and just finish him before he gets started on his cheat codes, problem
Hmm.
solved. If I'm Islam, you got to try to catch this man because Jack's not the great like he wasn't like the greatest grappler prior, right? Like he doesn't come from like a grappling background. Like he's
No.
competent, but if you can catch him early and get him to make a mistake early and then just never let him out. Never let him get to his cheat code.
Yeah.
That's where Islam's going to excel.
I rewatched the Moicano fight. That the speed with which he snatched up that Darce was not like anything I have ever seen before. That's a submission that usually takes like at least a second or two for people to kind of like, okay, is my arm through far enough? Do I have like, it just takes like a couple seconds to really make the adjustments and put the squeeze on and collect the legs and do all the things. I've never seen someone put a darce on so fast. And it's not like Hanato Moicano is some scrub on the ground. The man is a phenomenal grappler and jiu-jitsu artist. Islam's darce and front headlock series is nasty.
Yeah, see, but that's my point. Moicano didn't have a chance to work some different things because the submission was on him so fast that
Yeah.
if they fought again, he would do better, right? But he never had a chance. He didn't give him a chance to do better, and I think Islam's got to do that in this fight.
Yeah. That was a funny fight to watch because I actually had forgotten that Moicano rocked him really bad. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely, it's hard to poke holes in Islam's game, but there are moments where he does look like a human being and not some unstoppable monster, right? Like if it's almost like if you could take this little hole he saw here against Dustin, if we could take this little moment that he had against Hanato Moicano, take the knockout that he had when he first, and somehow make all those things happen at once, maybe someone can beat him. But the guy is really, really
Right.
good.
Well, and I'm going to quote Michael Chiesa here when he was we were talking on the desk and his strategy for Steve Garcia and beating David Onama. He said, I would never tell this to fighters, but in this case, do it. And I'm saying this to Islam is like, don't pace yourself.
Yeah.
Like, don't necessarily pace. Like, if it doesn't work in the beginning, you can start to pace yourself, but don't necessarily pace yourself because what Steve Garcia did with Onama, he just jumped right on him never gave him a chance.
I've never seen David have a fight like that. He just never got started. He never got out of the starting gate, ever. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a good strategy. The flip side to that, though, is I think that the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Jack because
Yeah,
I think
without a doubt.
I want to have the discussion about size, but it's so tricky because it's like I really don't know which side of the coin I fall on in this fight. On one hand, you've got what I just said. The guy, Islam, is going to be bigger and more muscular and carrying more weight than he ever has before. And it's not like he had some insane Marab-like gas tank to begin with. He gets a little tired. It's not bad, but he gets a little tired. And you're going to add to that by putting weight on a guy. And you're going to add to it by a guy fighting bigger guys than he's used to fighting in a 5-round fight. Like, those are all negatives. But on the flip side, you're talking about a man who has notoriously some of the worst weight cuts that we've seen at 155, right? I've been trying to do the digging on, like, he did an interview with Brett Okamoto where he was really kind of going on and on about how hard it's been to put on weight. And he's like, I'm eating so much protein and he's like, I eat protein, I eat creatine. He wanted to weigh, I did the math. He said it in kilograms and I don't remember what it was, but like 86, I don't know. I looked it up in pounds. He wants to get up to 190. This interview was done a few weeks ago. He wasn't quite at 190 yet. So he was really looking to like frame out and not just be a lightweight that doesn't cut weight. I guess it surprised me that he wasn't already 190 because I've known lightweights, plenty of lightweights that were low 90s. I don't know. I just want to have the weight discussion. Like, do you think it's going to be a net positive or a net negative, or is it all dependent on what happens in the fight?
I think it's all placebo.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. I think
classes are a lie.
No, I think in these situations it is.
I'll fight you right now, Dean.
Yeah, I think this situation is different. No, so and that's the tricky thing is like, okay, yes, when you're 115 pounds, yes, if you fight somebody that's 200 pounds, yes, of course there's going to be, some differences here. There's going to be a big disparity here. But when you're talking about a guy who was at 155, who's going up to 170, he was already big at 155, had a hard time making the weight. I think the idea that he has to put on size and he's focusing on that would be a distraction from him fighting a good fight. I think should just focus on being as best as he can be and just not having to cut the weight. And I think I think he would fight better that way. I think that would be his best chances. I think the idea that, I put on an extra 10 pounds of muscle would be a distraction and would be placebo for him. Because
Yeah.
I think he's great. I think he's going to be great regardless.
I saw some pictures from, I think it was his Instagram, where he's like on a beach or something somewhere. He's looking jacked, looking thickums. Like he definitely looks like he should have kind of always been a welterweight, to be honest with you. I don't think he's going to be small, is my point.
Well,
Maybe
I
not
mean,
the biggest welterweight ever, but he's not going to be small.
and to further my point, it was like it's like the whole Kevin Holland thing. Like, oh, he's in the wrong weight class. He's in the wrong weight class. But when he went down to 170, he just can't beat. It's like sometimes you're just not good enough to beat elite guys. Like that, sometimes you have to come to terms with that. It's just so easy for fighters to make the excuse of weight because we accept that, because we've all seen that big person and we're afraid, intimidated by a bigger person. So it's easy to use the excuse of weight, but we get carried away with it when it's not really the case. When we're talking
Yeah.
about Jack and Islam in this situation, I don't think it's his weight that's going to be the case. Now, it may be Jack's weight in terms of a situation might be different for him, because like if Alex Volkanovski was able to tire him out with a lot of movement, if Jack's doing
That's
that,
what I'm
that
saying.
might be a factor. Yeah, that might be a factor.
And while Jack isn't like a big swinging power puncher, the guy's got some pop on his shots. Like his boxing, I could spend a whole video just talking about his boxing. I think I have before, because I know we've done breakdowns on him. Obviously, when he fought Belal, we did a breakdown. I just remember back when I was studying him for Contender Series, like I just loved his style immediately. Like you don't see footwork like that pre-Contender Series very often. Trust me. The body work, the way that he mixes in the body shots, and I actually think that's going to be a big potential part of this fight as well,
Yeah.
to deliver a lot of damage to the body of Islam, not only because that's an effective strike regardless, but also it's a strike that tires you out. It's also a strike that if you're looking to defend shots, thrown to the body is always a good thing to mix into your combinations. And Jack Della is elite at doing that. I don't know. The odds suggest that this is a fight that is Islam's to lose. I don't know that I see it that way. I'm not picking, and I do think Islam should be the favorite stylistically. He's also a former number one pound for pound guy. Like we all know what he's achieved. I'm just glad I don't have to make a prediction on this fight, but you do.
I will make a prediction, but before I make that prediction, I will add another element to look out for in this game, and that is
Please do.
Jack is a switch hitter. He fights very good at southpaw. Now, we know that Adriano Martins knocked out Islam Makhachev with a right hook many years ago, and I know who Adriano Martins' coach was. His name is Mikey Rod. He actually lives in my hometown, actually, currently in Port St. Lucie, Florida. But
Oh, really?
he coached them on that, and they knew that was going to be available to them. The check right hook. Now, if you look at all the other situations in where Islam got hit or hurt in fights, it's always been from the southpaw stance. I think he has a hard time seeing shots coming from the southpaw stance. If Jack and his team did their homework and they picked up on this, he's going to have combinations in which he is going back and forth, but doing a lot of damage from the southpaw stance. So I would expect to see Jack and them do that in this fight.
And to further that, I will tell you that at least last time I did like a really nitty gritty film study on him, the majority of Jack's knockouts come when he goes southpaw. Like he'll fight long stanzas. He switches a lot more lately, but this is early in his career was when I did this. He would fight long periods orthodox, and as soon as he would switch southpaw, he'd get the knockout. Like that happened time and time again on the regional scene. So that is certainly a skill set that he is well acquainted with, operating and knocking people out with that left side. So we shall see. Or with the
So
right
I
head.
know
The right head.
you're probably waiting for my pick, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I know the world is going to hate me, but I got to see it. Call it like I see it.
You're gonna get aggregated.
I'm going with Jack.
All right.
I'm going with Jack. I do. Is Jack the favorite now?
No, not last time I looked.
Well,
Did the odds just change? Last time I looked, Islam um was a decent favorite.
oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jack. I think that for the reasons I'm suggesting, and Jack is young too. If he was
Yep.
like an older fighter, I'd probably say that he wouldn't be able to pick up these new tricks. But when you start teaching a 29-year-old guy a bunch of new tricks, I mean, they're just like a kid in a candy store with this stuff. I think that,
Yeah.
him working with Craig for as long as he has been, he's already been a clean boxer. Um, I think that he wins this fight.
So Google just told me that the odds are Islam is ranging from a minus 220 to minus 258. So yeah, pretty decent
Ooh,
favorite. So Dean
man,
with the contrarian take as per usual. And that's why we
man,
love
it's
you.
bold. Yeah.
It is bold. It's bold. I don't hate it. Hey, we have some thoughts from our fans. Let me pull them up.
Ooh.
This is from Joe Albaraya 2493. He says, I have a question. I'm going to do Joe's voice. I have a question. Why did the UFC change the rule of becoming double champ? Ever since Volk's attempt to become a double champ, everyone has to vacate or move up? Question mark. I.e. Islam, Weili, Topuria. In some cases, I understand the champ doesn't want to ever come back down. So in order to bulk properly, they vacate. But Weili 100% could fight in both divisions. Thanks for the effort / time and education you guys give us, the viewers. You are both amazing. God bless. Well, thank you so much, Joe Albaraya, if that's how you pronounce it. I don't think they officially changed that rule, Joe. I think it's a situationship. I think they prefer it when people vacate because it's cleaner and it gives the people in the previous weight class an obvious path. They don't love when things get stagnant and clogged, but I don't think it's a hard and fast rule. Like, I think if Amanda Nunes magically wanted to be a double champ again, not that we even have a featherweight division, but as a for instance, they would let her do that. Do you feel like that's accurate, or are they done
I
with
feel
those
like it's
days?
probably a little bit more a hard and faster rule than you're
Ooh,
suggesting. I think if they wouldn't allow
really?
Wei Lee to do it, who would they allow to do it? Right? Like they didn't allow Ilya to do it. Like who would
Yeah,
they? And I, but I
good
think, but
point.
I think this it's because, but for good reason though, because it holds up divisions. I think they were just tired of fighters holding up divisions. It completely holds up to divisions. I mean, not only do champs not fight all that much anyway, but then when you're asking them to defend two different belts, that's just like it would be a mess for divisions.
Yeah,
So I don't
that's
blame
a
the
really
UFC for doing that.
yeah. And what people forget too is that like the UFC has a certain number of fights that they have to offer you every single
Hmm.
year as a fighter. And so those guys at the top of that division that just got left for greener pastures are all like, no, my next fight has to be this. It causes major problems business wise. And, like you said,
Well,
yeah, you make a really good point. I guess I just in my mind, I can see Whaley coming back down, but they would just have her fight for whoever had at the time.
And that would be the fair thing to do. But in
Yeah.
terms of like, think about like Ilya Taporia. Like, could you imagine if Ilya didn't vacate? There's already this log jam at featherweight right now of guys like, yo, I deserve the shot. I deserve the shot. At least we have a champion to give it to him. Like if Ilya never vacated, where would the featherweights be right now?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a really good point. All right, let's see who else we got here. This is from, oh boy, CKX Talents. Anyway, you guys had me cracking up this episode. My question is, when Islam loses against Jack, do the Dagestani fighters finally lose their invincible aura? Mainly curious about Dean's opinion on this one.
Oh man, no,
Doing trouble.
no. I think. this it won't necessarily solidify it. Like that aura is never going to go anywhere because it's not just an aura, it's based on substance. They're
It's
really
real.
good. So
Yeah.
it's not just an aura, but the aura in terms of the way fighters approach them will be different. I think so. The way fans look at them, it'll never change because they're always still going to win fights. But the way fighters approach them will be different. They're not going to go in with this sense of I'm already down a couple of points just because I'm fighting a Dagestani guy. They're going to go in thinking, oh, they can be beaten. They're human.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think that has already happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like it is happening, at least the beginning of it is happening. But this
Hmm.
one, I feel honestly, he makes a good point. This fight in particular, because Jack is not thought of as a great grappler, if he is able to beat Islam, this is like a big deal in terms of chipping away at that perceived aura or mystique or unbeatableness. I just made up a word.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you think about, those guys have lost before, Saeed Nurmagomedov, like Saeed Nurmagomedov has been beaten a few times before, and then
Umar.
with Usman, Umar got beat, but then Usman, he had those fights with Paul Hughes where many people
Mhm.
questioned the decision of those. So like the mystique is gone. It's just a matter of being able to run with that and just fighters going, man, you know what, we can do this. We just have to fight them a little differently.
Yeah. Okay. And then last one. Let's see here. Ab Abby Newton? Abby Newton. There we go. At Abby Newton. Do you think that was actually a pretty easy one, Abby Newton? Do you think if Weili loses to Valentina, she would go back down to face the new champ? Same with Islam. If he loses to Jack, will he go back down, or do you think both fighters stay in their new division? I'll let you answer first.
I think Whaley definitely goes down. I'm not sure Islam will. I think Islam
Yeah.
might enjoy this extra weight
Yeah.
and realize that like he could still be good at 170. He might lose, but just be like, you know what, but I just need to get used to it. That might be the
Hmm.
situation for him. But I see Whaley going back down if she doesn't have success here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. Dean, that's all we have for fan questions. Guys, if you want to
Oh.
get involved in this channel, we love hearing from you. We love when Laura has to try to read your handle live. That's fun. Yeah, it's just kind of neat to hear from everybody. Get your thoughts, get your questions, get your comments. So please continue to comment on the pinned comment in this video for the next video, which of course will be our preview of UFC 323. So, final thoughts, Dean. Do you have any? Put you on the spot.
Uh, I got Jack Della Maddalena. I think he avoids the onslaught early, gets put in some precarious positions, avoids that, and wins the fight. But I could be made a complete fool. Like he might not avoid the onslaught and get subbed in the first round, and then that's the end of it.
And that is what we love about this sport because we do
Yeah.
not know. And that's what makes it fun to watch. Guys, we appreciate your time very much. We appreciate Dean's time as always. His expertise, his presence is invaluable. Appreciate you guys watching. Stick right here on the channel for a video on the co-main event as well, and we'll see you at UFC 322.